Alrighty, hello everyone, welcome back. You are now seeing well, that's a close-up with the camera, but you are now seeing the very latest of my road surface after the third and darkest wash of acrylic paint has sufficiently dried. And I will say that although I'm generally pleased with the look, the tone of the three different washes that I used from light to dark on the acrylic paints, I'm generally happy with. The cracked road surface, to me is pretty realistic in scale. Although I think the next time I do this, I'm going to have some more areas that are just relatively smooth and crack free. And there are a few that are almost there, but in general, I'm for my very first time doing this, I'm pretty happy with it. And now, I think in a previous video I mentioned I might add another wash over the third layer, but I think I've decided not to do that. Instead, what I'm doing is now adding darker paint to not all the cracks, that'd be overkill, but to at least some of the areas, as if a patch had been done at some point in the past, and that too is wearing away a bit. But I also want to just bring out the shadows a little bit more, a little more detail. And so I started painting in these little cracks, and I'm using the same color I used for the third wash, and that's this Vallejo Model Air Dark Sea Gray 71.053. And just put a couple drops here in my palette, and a little bit of water, paint here, a little bit of water next to it, and just taking very, very tiny amounts, thinned out with the water. And this is just a basic, the camera zoomed in so much it's hard to tell, but I think my wife got these palettes, like 3 or 4 to a pack at a dollar store somewhere. And I'm trying to, I can't really say for sure how thin this is, but I want it to be fairly thin so it flows into the cracks. And as you can hopefully see here, I've already started it before I decided to film. I wanted to give it a go, make sure I had a reasonable idea of what I'm doing. And so here we are. Before I forget, I'm using a brush. Kind of having a look in the viewfinder from the side here. Hopefully you can see this. It's the same brand as the other brush I mentioned in the previous video, Princeton Velvet Touch. It's a liner brush, very, very small size. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try to remember to put it in the description as well. But I just get a little bit of water and paint. I can't speak to other artists' techniques, but from the past, I'm used to when I'm putting paint on, or when loading the brush with paint, especially a liner brush. I mean, obviously you wouldn't do that with a flat, but a round brush of some kind. As I dip, I'm turning. That's hard to, because again, the camera's so close. Because I wanted you to see detail, but when I dip and get the paint, I'm slowly turning it left or right, if you will, just loading the brush in this kind of a motion. And I don't know how other people are doing it. That's how I do it. Well, I should say it's like muscle memory. It's been so long since I did serious painting but it stuck with me, I guess. And so when I'm doing it, that's how I do it. And just try to get a tiny bit of paint in the bristles and carefully get into these cracks. And just a very light, I'm just using a very light touch as I go, because I mainly just want to get in the cracks to draw those out a little bit, so to speak, visually. I have noticed in my initial efforts before filming, I tend to hold my breath. And for me, I think that's making it a little harder. It's making making the brush kind of shake a little bit. I don't know why. I can't say why. I just speak from how I'm feeling when I do this. I wish I had better light. Could more easily feature this without shadow. But I'm still working on the solution to that issue. But hopefully you can get an idea of what I'm doing, even though the lighting isn't the best. And for that, I apologize. I think one issue I constantly trying to stay aware of that is a holdover from my younger days, fresh out of art school and my first job. Mostly that was graphic design, but even with that, you want to be careful with the design or an illustration that you don't overdo it. Keep it light. You know, it's easier to add than it is to subtract. I mean, you can subtract, but hard to do this and talk at the same time. Multitasking. Let's see. I did notice after the crackle paste is dried and been sanded, and the 2 different layers of that, and then the 3 layers of acrylic wash, the joints, see, between the road that goes direction the brush is painting across the track, and the road that follows the edge of the practice board itself, there's a joint in the balsa wood, or well, where the two meet, it stands out a tiny bit. It's to me, it's borderline realistic. There would be possibly I mean, if the road itself was composed of panels or sections of asphalt or concrete, then I can see how there might be that joint showing up and looking as it does currently on my little practice board here. So I'm just leaving it, but for the next, and there's another at the far end where I had a short extension, which is to the right in the video. Excuse me. There's about a 2.5-ish inch piece of the balsa that I added just to make up the difference to the end. And there's a noticeable joint there. It's not obnoxious, but it is something you can see. But as I go along here and paint in the asphalt, I'm also looking for areas that they were more noticeable earlier, harder to see at the moment unless I look down. But there were areas where the crackle paste was just like you might see in a real road, where there's a slight depression that's worn away more than the area around it. And you know, there's one, it's out of shot at the moment, I think, but it's right at the end. You can't see it in the shot, I don't think, but it's right at just off the end of the brush here, and it's a little patch. It looks like a section of asphalt that is broken away, and I painted it with this darker color. And I like it. I like what's happening there. So I am going to leave it because it makes me happy. What was I saying? This is something you really want to be careful with. The cracks in the road surface here are going to take the paint, the thinned out paint is going to wick right in there. The capillary action will take it. But it's really helpful to have a brush like this that has a very, very fine tip. Again, this is a liner brush. And I'm trying to find and highlight cracks that are a little bit deeper. Just to give a little more prominence to them. Yeah, maybe this is... Honestly, to me, this looks like a road surface after it's been raining, which is what's actually been going on where I live, which is the greater Seattle area. The last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had a good deal of rain here. A lot of people think it just rains all the time, and really it doesn't. But December 2025 has been extremely wet. We've had a few atmospheric rivers come through and A lot of river flooding, a lot of landslides, a lot of road closures. If you're trying to go east from this Puget Sound area over the Cascade Mountains to eastern Washington or points beyond, your choices have been not only restricted by seasonal closures of a couple routes, but landslides and flooding have really done some nasty damage on a couple of the highways, cross mountain highways. One in particular, US 2, which goes over Stevens Pass, and is also not the exact path of the Great Northern as it crossed the mountains here in Washington, but there's a lot of history very, very early on, I believe. After, when the Great Northern first came through the area, it switched back over the Cascades until the first Cascade Tunnel was built, which was a bore of approximately 2 to 2.5 miles. My memory is terrible at that stuff. I'd have to go look it up. But then, of course, the current Cascade Tunnel was built and completed in the late 20s, I believe. But there's the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, and it's pretty much the same trackage that was there when the longer Cascade Tunnel was completed. Just under 8 mile tunnel. And one of the neat things for me that you can still access the snow sheds from the first Cascade Tunnel crossing. And I believe it's called the Iron Goat Trail. But it's a neat historical, well, if you're into this sort of thing, it's a neat historical trail. You can even see the snow sheds from the current US 2 as it's climbing. Well, easier to see them when you're descending Stevens Pass westbound. But you can look over to the north side of the valley and see them going along the mountainside through the slide paths. And oops, almost lost the brush there. I don't know, it's just really a neat bit of history to be able to see and get to check out on a hike. And I think I just highlighted a crack that's not really in there. Not enough anyway, but that's all right. Let's see, what was I saying? Yes, rain. It's been raining pretty much nonstop. A few days here and there. It hasn't really done anything but been cloudy, a little sun, but for the most part, raining. I'd love to go out. There are some places I've seen asphalt road services like this, and they look like this when they're wet, but I'd kind of like to see them when they're dry and get reference photos. So I'm pretty much doing this accent painting from memory and just observing the real thing. And it's rather relaxing to do this. Focus on this painting and weathering and let me see if I can adjust my light carefully. Get out of the shadow. But anyway, I'm not sure how far I'll take this. I don't want to, as I think I've said a few times now, I don't want to overdo it. I can correct if I need to, but that part of me that's been an artist for a good chunk of life is constantly telling me in the background, don't overdo it. What's the phrase? Less is more. On the subject of the Cascade Tunnel and what I was just talking about a couple minutes ago, before I forget, one of the goals of that I have for this channel is to also go out, because I'm modeling my layout based on the Great Northern in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, pre-merger. I also wanted to go out into the field, as it were, and get some video photos that I can put on the channel of, well, obviously the Great Northern is no longer around, but there are areas that I'd like to feature. One in particular I can think of, a bridge crossing over what we know in the Seattle area is a ship canal near the Ballard Locks. I'd like to go get, if I can, video there while BNSF train is crossing, as it makes its way south toward downtown Seattle. But I've got some books, Great Northern, that I've had since I was a young lad, that have pictures in them from different areas around Seattle when the Great Northern was running. And I'd like to go to those spots if I can and get video or photo of that area, and then compare it to modern day. But just part of the content I want to add to this video while I do the modeling, because I have no idea how long this is going to take to see my layout come to fruition. Because like a lot of people, I'm sure, money is tight. You can't necessarily spend much or rather I have to spread it out quite a bit. A piece here, a piece there to do my layout. That's one reason I'm doing this practice board, because I want to take the time to learn some techniques and find out what I like, what I don't like, before I apply them to the main layout. But it could take a while before I get the layout itself started, just because I'm still working on getting the space cleared out. But pretty soon I want to post a video that shows the track plan and just discusses what the thinking behind it, my motivations, etc., and so on. When I'm sure that'll be after Christmas, because I have to figure out what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it. So, yeah. And you can see this little darker patch over here. That was a little spot that formed as I was spreading the crackle paste and sanding and putting another layer on, sanding that, and I noticed that it formed. And there are a few others around the surface here. There's one off camera that you can't see that is quite a bit bigger. But now that I'm talking about it, I think I'll fill it in. So there you go. I think that'll be it for now. Don't want to make this too long. But thank you for watching. Any questions you might have for me, I'm do my best to answer them. Any advice you have for all the detailing, the painting, layout, building, everything, I'm more than happy to accept your advice, your recommendations, your comments. So please leave them if you can. And if you like the video, give it the old thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Have a Merry Christmas.